So I want to scratch the surface a little bit on a book by Dr. Robert Glover, called No More Mr. Nice Guy, and it addresses nice guy syndrome, which is where men try to be overly pleasing to their wives, just a bit submissive, and they don't speak up, they don't set boundaries, and it ends up causing issues within the marriage because they don't from what he says, the wives become very unhappy because the husbands aren't present, if that makes sense. Then they're kind of like another child. They're not part of the partnership, and then I think it's not very attractive to women as well if you've got a very submissive man. Now here's the thing, it's called nice guy syndrome, and I think that's the wrong name. I don't think it should be called nice guy syndrome, because I know men who are in these relationships. They're unhappy. The wives are unhappy. The wives, whether they know it or not, whether it's a conscious thing, they're not very attracted to their husbands because their husbands say they're saying that bullshit mantra, which is happy wife, happy life. And the husband has no voice. He thinks it's better to be submissive and to just go along with what she thinks, and it makes his life easier, rather than him having an opinion, having a voice, and instead respecting his wife's opinion, but having his own opinion and the confidence to say no. Not be a dick about it, but have the confidence to say, this is my voice, this is my opinion. Now here's the thing, I know men who are absolute fucking dicks, but they are this. So they're not nice, and they're not Mr. Nice Guy. I think they're Mr. Submissive Guy. I think they can cheat, they can lie, they can steal, but they're very submissive. So the wife says no, and they don't do it. The wife says, and sometimes it's not even that the wife says no. Sometimes it's the man thinks that that's what they have to do. They're very submissive. Oh, I need to do everything for her. I need to people please her, and that's what she wants. And I don't think that's what women do want. I think some women say they want that, and a lot of women think, and I see it on a lot of stuff online where you see women say, I'm a strong woman and I want a man that can handle me and rah rah rah. I don't think that's what women really want. I think from what I've seen and what I've read, there are a lot of women who have that role because they do not have a man in their life, but what they want is kind of like that father figure who did everything for the family. He provided for the family, he protected for the family, and he, when things needed doing, there was a water leak, he fixed the water leak. When there was a bear outside the house, he sorts the bear out, he chops the wood, he makes the fire, he goes and gets the food, and a lot of women say they, I don't want that, I'm very independent. But I think it's nice for a woman to be able to raise her children, have that. Now, that man can still, even if he is a provider, he can still be a people pleaser and just be very submissive. And I think that's the point. It's not a Mr. Nice Guy, it's a Mr. Submissive Guy. Because you can have a man who's a provider, but he can also be very submissive. You can have a man who's a complete and utter dick, but he's still submissive. So I think the point is, it's not about a man being nice, it's about him being submissive, and it's about him not having the confidence to say no and be sure of his place in the relationship, in the world. Now, I respect my wife. I respect her opinion. I respect her knowledge, her experience. when it's something that she knows about, I fully go along with, I respect her experience, and I will say, if that's what you think's best, then that's what we'll do. I'm there to problem solve, not make decisions. If she thinks, I'm not the dictator of decisions, is what I mean. I'm happy to make decisions, and I will make decisions, and a lot of the time I will talk to her about what she thinks, and I want her opinion. But at the end of the day, I will say, okay, let's do this. And other times I will say, look, we're going to go out today. Is there anything you would like to do? And if she says, no, not really, I'll make the decision. If she says, well, I wouldn't mind going to the beach today, cool, we'll go to the beach. I'm happy to go along with what she wants because I love her and I care about her. But that doesn't mean I'm submissive. Now, when my little boy starts hitting out, there is a certain boundary. It goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. And when he crosses that line, I step in. I don't care if she's in the middle of controlling it. I don't care. There is a certain line where I step in and I just say, you do that again, you're dead. And I mean, he's 2. So he doesn't understand what I'm saying. But what I mean is, I will kind of treat him the way you treat a dog. I don't shout at him. I just impose my figure. I don't grab him. I just sit almost on top of him and just do nothing until he calms down. And he understands who's boss. I don't need to look at him. I don't need to shout at him. I don't need to control him. He can do what he wants, and eventually he will calm down. When he calms down, I talk to him, and I just say to him, you do not speak to your mum like that. You do not raise your hands to your mum. You do not raise your hands to your sister. Now you go and apologise now. You do it again, you're going to have to deal with me again. And he's like, okay. And he knows where he stands. That, to me, is the difference between, and I've seen it before, dads who will say, they won't interfere because they're afraid of the mum. And then when the mum says, back me up, the dad will back the mum up. And I've seen it. The dad isn't doing enough. She then says, the mum says, do more. Tell them then. He then raises it and she goes, whoa, 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 that's too much. Don't shout at my babies like that. Don't. And then she starts having a go at him and makes herself the saviour. And that's winning the favour. So she does that on purpose, makes him the bad guy to make her the good guy. Oh, come here, my babies. I'll protect you from your dad. Yeah, she's just told him to have a go at them. So there's a lot of that. But he is not protecting his wife. He is appeasing his wife. He's intimidated by his wife. He's afraid of his wife. Sometimes it's not even afraid. Sometimes it is just men are used to being subordinate because that's probably how their mums treated them. Their mums treated them like they were below them. Instead of raising, it's going to sound really cliche and cringe, but instead of raising a king, they're raising a little boy. And then the little boy becomes afraid of their wife because that's just how he's been raised. I think there was, I can't remember if I've said it before, but the story of the boxer, I can't remember who it was either, but he grew up with his dad, and his dad was an ex-boxer, and his dad was his coach, and his dad was an incredibly good boxer, an incredibly good coach. The boy trained under him when he was like 16, 17. He was amazing because he trained under his dad, and his dad was this amazing coach. Then what happened was there was a gym down the road, or in the same town, not far away, say a mile away, and they used to do an inter-club competition. They'd have this competition, and the other team, the coach wasn't as good. He wasn't as good a boxer. He wasn't as good a coach, and his fighters weren't as technically good. But they do this inter-club competition, and the other team would always win. Their fighters would always win, and they would beat this other team. And this young boxer, whose dad was the coach, he recognised what was going on when he started getting a bit older, and he recognised that his dad was the king lion, and he wouldn't tolerate any other king lions in his gym. You fuck with me on my turf, you get out. So to him, he was the king. and all of his fighters were below him. Now, I'm not getting into that alpha beta bollocks because that's a whole nother topic I want to get onto, but he would make his fighters think like they were subordinates, whereas in the other gym, the other coach where his fighters weren't as technical, he would be constantly building them up and saying to them, you're gonna kill this person. You're the best fighter. You're the biggest. You're the baddest. Nothing can stop you. If anything comes, you are a warrior. You're an animal. You're a lion. You're this. You're that. Blah 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 blah. And his fighters had this different mindset. They were, and I mean, you might have problems within the gym. They might interfight, and you need to sort that out. But you, as the leader, are creating a room full of dominant animals. This is where you have a problem sometimes within gyms. You've got one key fighter, and then you get someone who gets better and better and better, and then they leave because they're not the centre of attention. It's very difficult to manage that and balance that. And obviously you can't have, not that you can't, but you can't have, I suppose, two world-class fighters in the same weight category, in the same gym, because they probably are going to end up fighting each other. But the point was, you're creating subordinates. And I do think that this whole Mr. Nice Guy, it's a Mr. Subordinate guy. And this is where it comes back to leadership. And I believe that there are a lot of people who subconsciously, men and women, subconsciously are very subordinate because that's what they've been brought up to be. You respect your parents, you respect your elders, let me take that back. You should respect people. It's not respect. What I mean is, you need to be submissive to your elders. You need to be submissive to your boss. You need to be submissive. Now, I'm not saying go around being a complete wild animal and being a dick. But what I'm saying is to be a leader, you need to have it within you to not be submissive. You can be polite and you can humour someone who is in charge. You can say, I respect that this is your gym, say in the boxing scenario. I respect that this is your gym. That's cool. If that's what you want us to do and I want to be part of your team, then I will do that. But there comes a line where you will say, no, I'm not. For example, the coach starts whipping one of the other boxers. If you are truly not subordinate, you will step in at that moment and say, what are you doing? You stop them and you leave. That's it, because now the ecosystem won't work. Because now you've undermined him within his gym. It won't work. You completely ruined the ecosystem. But the point is, that ecosystem, you don't have to be a bully. You do not have to be a bully to be in charge. And this is where I think a lot of people get it wrong. You can be very reserved. You can be very quiet. You can listen. You can only talk. You can still talk just, 5% of the time. You could be listening 95% of the time. And you could let things work out as they are. And only step in when you need to step in. That is a proper leader. So, again, if you look at this scenario of, say, within my house and with my wife, she knows best. I'm not going to undermine her with a decision that, she knows best about something to do with the children. She knows, she spends a lot more time with the children than I do. So if she says that this is what the child thinks or wants, then I trust her on that. I don't fully agree with if she says this is what's best for the child, because I say to her, no. Your job is very different to mine. My job is to make sure that my boy, and I understand he's only 2, but my job is, when my boy becomes 18, that he can provide and protect, be respectful, be a man, be a gentleman, respect women, respect his elders, respect everyone, but be a decent human being on top of that. That's my job to create that, not her job. Her job is to be his mummy, look after him, but then it's my job to take him away from that when he gets to a certain age and just say, no, you need to man up, you need to grow up. You've got responsibilities, you've got a sister, you need to make sure that you are there for her when me and your mum are gone. You need to make sure that not only are you there for her, but you need to make sure that if anything happens with, let's just say, her and her husband, and we're not, me and her mum, even if I'm just gone, and if it's just their mum that's around, you are now the protector of the family. And I need to instill that within him. Not be a bully, but just not stand for any shit. And I think this is what this whole Mr. Nice Guy thing is. Are you confident enough to have a voice? You don't have to be a dick. And a lot of these people are still dickheads, but subordinate. And I think that's what this means. Again, I know a lot who will do it because they'll behave in a subordinate fashion because their wives scold them for making decisions. I know that there are, and those men at the same time will be out with their mates, be an absolute just dickhead behind their wife's back. They're not a good father, they're not a good husband, but they're very subordinate at home. And then on the flip side, again, I know, like I said, I know other husbands who are very, very subordinate and will do everything to please their wife, and their wife's not even said that. And you can tell, you look at them and you just think, oh, it's so sad, because all she wants is a man. She doesn't want a little boy. She doesn't want a little boy who wants to please his mummy. She wants a man who can stand on his own 2 feet. She's not expecting him to wash and clean and cook, and, she might do those things. She might be happy to do those things. She might want to look after him. But she wants someone who is going to make her feel safe. And I think that's it. Respect her, make her feel safe. She has no worries in the world. It's my choice to look after my family. It's my choice to provide and allow my wife to stay at home, look after the children, be a full-time mum. My daughter said to me the other day, she's 5, and I loved it. She said to me, Daddy, when I grow up, I want to be an artist. I want to teach children art. And I said, so you want to be an art teacher? Yeah, I love art. I love painting. And I said, you do that. I absolutely love that. If that's what you want to do, you do that. And then she said, when I have a baby, the daddy can stay at home with the baby and I can keep teaching art. Or if he is at work, I can stay at home with the baby. And I said, it's up to you. You do what you want. And I love the fact that she's 5 and she's thinking about what she wants to do in the future, and she's got that independence, and I love it for her. I love it. I want her to be an art teacher if she wants to be an art teacher, but I want her to be confident and independent, but I also want her to make the right choice of husband for someone that can provide for her if she is to stay at home and be a full-time mum. I want that for her, and I feel that that is the duty of being a man. That's my opinion. I'm not saying it has to be like that, but I feel like you should do what it takes to provide that for your family so that your children can have their mum full time. Now, I understand it's difficult. A lot of people will say, well, we can't go on holiday if we don't have 2 wages. We can't have, 2 cars, or we can't have the luxuries that we want. We can't have the latest iPhone. Well, then that's a choice you have to make. That's a sacrifice you have to make. What's more important, the holidays, having a week, in a resort, or having a week off work with your children where you spend quality time with them, but the rest of the year they get to spend the time with their mum? It's a choice you have to make. My opinion. A little bit preachy there at the end, but yeah, I do think that book is a good book. I think there's a lot of men out there that need to read it, a hell of a lot of men. And I think those sort of men in leadership situations, they become very subordinate because that's what they've been taught to be. Their mums have taught them to be mummy's boys. They're everywhere. And I think a woman will meet a man, she will be attracted to him, he's funny, he's charming, and then over time she just realises she's now already caught in a trap, but she realises he's like a boy. Emotionally, more than anything, he's like an emotional boy. He's like a teenager. He's not grown up. He's not independent. He can't look after himself emotionally. And that's what he needs to be. She can't look after him while she's trying to raise babies. It's a tough gig. I couldn't do it. I could not do it. Obviously, if I had to, I would, but it's a tough gig. But that wife doesn't need to be looking after the husband and babies. She needs his help, not him being a burden. So that automatic subordinate nature of a very high percentage of men, and I'm talking at the moment, and I want to clarify on this, I'm talking about the UK. There are a lot of cultures where that isn't the case, but I'm saying in the UK today, within the age range of, let's just say 18 to even 50, there are a hell of a lot of subordinate, emotionally immature men who subconsciously behave that way. And I think it's a problem.